I've got a safe on the floor with my system installed. And their head of sales is like, Tom, your system holds 12 guns. I said, with all due respect, it's a 12-gun safe. He goes, that's a 40-gun safe. And I said, sir, there's no way you can physically fit 40 guns in that safe. And he started laughing. He goes, yeah, I know. That's our industry's little white lie.
Welcome to episode 18 of the Frugal Firearms Podcast, the podcast that has a mission to make you save money, to be able to afford other things in your life, and still be able to afford and enjoy the shooting sports to the maximum extent that your budget allows. But you know what happens if someday you come home and all those firearms that you worked so hard to acquire aren't there anymore? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about the process of replacing them and what you're going to have to sacrifice in order to do that? So today we're welcoming on Tom Kubiniec from Secureit to be talking about options for storage in ways that you probably haven't thought about. And if you haven't thought about storage, you need to. But even if you do have a storage solution, is it really going to serve your need at the time of need? Tom has a lot of thoughts on this. I've listened to him on some other excellent podcasts. Definitely wanted to have him on this show to expose him to a different audience. But first and always, we're going to bring on our co-host, Ken. Ken, good morning. How are you?
Doing very well. Looking forward to this discussion with Tom here. And I have owned one of Tom's products now for more than 5 years. So, and I've got some thoughts and hopefully it'll be a great conversation.
So again, welcome to the show, Tom from Secureit. Tom, tell us about who you are, kind of how you got started. Briefly, you had a great story that has to do with an MP5 that really got you rolling in this industry. So give us a little bit of your background and why you're relevant in the space.
I will do it's about a minute and a half, rapid, as fast as I can go from the beginning. Graduated high school as a guitar player. I played heavy metal guitar. I played in bands, toured all over the place for about 10 years. Moved to California, had an article in Guitar Player magazine about me as the best unknown guitar player. I was obsessed with it. I developed tendonitis shortly after that article, and my career was over. I could not play again. So I took a job telemarketing because I had no other skills. 2 years later, I quit and started my first business as a telemarketing computer supply company, built that, sold it, started another one, got into the internet in the 90s and started creating websites selling tape racks and laptop storage cabinets when the HIPAA laws came out. Early days before Google, Yahoo, I got really good at SEO. And back then you could kind of game the system. I had 36 websites, all focused on laptop storage, all cross-linked and stuff you can't do anymore. And we crushed it. And then 2001, a guy called me, he said, can you store an MP5? And I'm like, sure. What's an MP5? I didn't know. And he goes, what's a little submachine gun? I start laughing. I go, who is this? And he was with the FBI. And I said, there's no reason we can't. And we talked for about 10, 15 minutes. I said, give me a week. Let me do some research. So I started looking into, again, this is back in the day of Google. It was a little harder to do research, but I kept finding references that the U.S. military was struggling. They were transitioning from the M16 to the M4, from a standard rifle to a modular weapon system, the M4 with all the attachments, and armories were failing. So I called one of my manufacturers who made my laptop cabinets. I'm like, Steve, I got a crazy idea. Weapon storage. He started laughing. He said, Canadian government called me about a month and a half ago. I'm already working on it. So he and I compared notes and came up with a weapon storage solution. Made in Canada, Secureit. I formed Secureit, was originally Secure IT, selling laptops. I thought
really?
This was the coolest thing. Yeah.
Oh, I never would have thought of that.
Secure IT for securing your. So as we started getting in, I thought this, again, I wasn't a gun guy. I could shoot, but I was a musician. I was not. It's a whole different culture, but I just thought it was fascinating and kind of cool. And, the Gulf War were at that point, and I was never in the military, but I thought if I could do something to help this effort, I really want to do it. And so we started working with my Canadian supplier, and we were the U.S. distributor for their product, selling it. And we didn't know anything about this. We had to look like idiots to the customers because we're coming in. We didn't know the nomenclature. We knew nothing about defense contracting, but we just kept plugging away at it and slowly learning. 2007, we BS'd our way into a contract with U.S. Army Special Forces Command to survey all of their armories nationally and then write them a report as to why they're failing inspection and make recommendations. We were a 3-person company up against Harris Defense, L3, these huge companies. And we won the contract, and I spent 18 months on the road traveling to every Special Forces armory, spent a day with the armor, watched the workflow, tons of notes, tons of photographs. And it was during that time that I became the leading authority on small arms storage and armory design. We became the pros from Dover, and that's when we designed and patented the Secureit Cradle Grid technology solution, which is a very simple, adjustable gun storage system. And we showed that to the SOCOM, the Special Forces guys, and we gave them the report, broke everything down, said, here's our solution. And we're like, we didn't know if they're going to like it, laugh at it, or what. And they just lit up. This was in 2009, late 2009. By 2011, we were the primary supplier to the U.S. military. So it went quick.
Would you? I heard the story before, and I think this little part of the story is worth repeating. And it's not. Some people would take it as maybe critical, but I would take it as you're leaning forward and you have confidence. How did you, quote unquote, become the leading authority?
Well, you're talking about the story about meeting with the colonel at Fort Bragg, probably.
I am, sir. Yes.
Yeah, that's you know what? This is a lesson in life kind of a thing, and it's not. In hindsight, I look back and say that was brilliant. At the time, I was making it up as I go along. Where Gary Myrick was my sales guy. It was he and then I had a girl that ran the office. Gary looked like an operator. He was ripped, bald, and he wasn't. His background, he was a sales guy, but he looked like a SOCOM guy. So we got this appointment with the colonel who was running this program. It's going to be the arms room assessment. This is before the solicitation comes out. Once the solicitation comes out, you can't talk to anybody. All you do is submit a bid. So we got a meeting with this guy. And we get to Bragg, and we're like, can we do this? And we're nobodies. We're nothing company. And we walk into the one of the buildings on Bragg for, I think it was 3rd Special Forces Group. We're walking down the hallway, and there's all this, there's all the photos and memorabilia and all this stuff, the history. And I'm looking at everything, and it just hits me. Nobody knows how to do what we're being asked to do. Nobody knows how to solve this problem. So I walked into his office and just...
And you mean including you?
Oh, yeah.
The time.
Yeah. Nobody knows the space, but we were there. We had the appointments. I walked in. I just said, "Good morning, sir. My name's Tom Kubiniec. I'm considered the leading authority in small arms storage and armory design. I really believe we're the company to do this for you. Let's talk about it." We sat down, talked for 20 minutes, which is a lot for a colonel to get that much time. And we walked out, and Gary's like, we get in the parking lot. I thought we had a great meeting. I'm walking to the car. He stops. He's like, "Dude, what the F was that?" I look at him. And he goes, "The leading." I started laughing. And as I said, "Gary, you know what?" It hit me as we were walking down the hallway. Nobody knows how to do this. The other people that supply weapon racks are office furniture companies that are making these things that they think the government wants. Nobody knows this. We just told them we're the experts. Let's win the contract and let's become the experts. We won the contract, and we dug our heels in and just spent 18 months doing a deep dive into armories. And the whole thing came back to the reason we won. The reason Secureit is the global leader in military weapons storage is simplicity. We had 2 big competitors. One had a modular weapon rack with 278 different components. The other, which was the main supplier to the Marine Corps, had a modular weapon rack with about 88 different components. So that you get the rack, configure it to store the guns. If the guns change, you simply swap the components and you're storing the new guns. Our system had one piece, one moving, our upper cradle. It holds everything from an MP5 up to most shoulder launch and mortar-based weapon systems. adjusts on the fly vertically. No tools are required. It's got a patented profile to it, so it picks up barrels, foregrips, magwells. And we took this thing down to the armorer walks up to our weapon rack with, doesn't matter what gun is in his hand. He can reach in with one arm, adjust it, place the gun, and walk away. Our competitor's rack would require you to set the guns down, go get some tools, unscrew everything, disassemble the rack, rebuild it. You're into an hour and a half now. And you've also got to go buy the new components, which in the military, just going out and buying stuff is really difficult.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We just solved it with simplicity. And then the other piece of our system that we really didn't know if they were going to laugh at us, our cradle grid system properly stores all guns, whether military or civilian. The other part of our system, the gear storage, was the really critical function in our opinion, because the amount of gear associated with the military weapons at that point when they were transitioning to the M4, gear was growing exponentially, and it's continued. Gear is growing much faster than weapons. So our gear storage solution is modular bins and trays, and you can buy most of this stuff at Home Depot. So where my competitors were 100% proprietary, and once you have their system, you have to buy everything from them, and it's expensive. You buy my system, you can go to any hardware store and buy components that will fit into my rack. Do we give up sales? Sure. I don't care. I'm selling we're crushing it because we're allowing, whether it's a military or a consumer, we're allowing them to solve problems the way they want to, not the way we think they should.
And I'll tell you something, for the people in our audience who are not thinking about Tom's products for their home, and they're thinking maybe along the lines of an agency, I want you to think for a second too about the importance of what Tom said, because buying parts is not just buying the part itself, it's the labor involved in costing the entire thing, competing it if it's at a certain dollar level. How many people are touching that purchase order, and what's the total cost of the purchase is a lot higher. So, Tom, why then, given the military background of your company and large scale storage for lots and lots of weapons, easily reconfigurable, how does that translate to the home market? How does that translate to your consumer? And maybe start off with, why would I even, let's say I don't have kids in the house, why not stick a gun in a flower pot or just underneath, my pillow in my room? Why even bother with gun storage to begin with in states where it's not part of the law?
Well, it's our mission, our part of our plan is to make sure every gun in America is properly locked and secured. All of our solutions we class them as fast access solutions. We've just developed our new HSFA locking system, which we can talk about later. When you look at tragedies in America surrounding guns, when you look at child deaths, accidental discharge deaths, or injury, and you look at these things, quite often you look at the story of what happened, and it's kind of a crazy set of events occurred in a certain order that resulted in a kid or an adult accidentally discharging a gun. And it's those unsecured firearms. Again, give you a real simple scenario to think about. You've got a couple that's in their late 60s. Their kids live out of state. Their kids don't have kids. They have no grandkids, just the two of them in a house. And he's got a couple handguns, rifles, and they're just next to the dresser and drawers in the house. Next door neighbor is a young family, father, mother, father, 3 kids. They're in their 30s. The dad has a stroke out of nowhere and drops. Ambulances show up. The wife is freaking out. They don't know what the hell's going on. And the guys get in the hospital. They're like, and then the neighbors are all good neighbors. You all get along. We'll watch the kids. Go with your husband. Get to the hospital. You need to be there. We've got these guys. We'll take care of it. So now that this very nice couple with no kids and, their kids live far away, have 3, let's say 6, 8, and 12-year-old boys in their house. And they're not used to it. They've not planned for it. But again, in a crisis, we adapt to take care of the crisis. We all help our neighbors. We do what we need to. But they've just created a situation where these kids are now, let's say 2 days go by. The kids are getting bored and kids explore. Mm-hmm. You can see where this is going. And but those are the scenarios. I mean, it sounds crazy, all these random things happening in this order, but when you dig into the stories of accidental discharge, you see these patterns. So what we're saying is simply having the gun secured breaks all the chains. It breaks them every single time. And when I say secured, I do not mean a trigger lock. I mean secured out of sight. Kids don't need to, if they're not old enough to be trained and learn how to shoot, they don't need to know you own firearms. Secondly, we can demonstrate that a properly locked gun is faster to access than a gun hidden in a closet, hidden in a drawer. I can be in a high ready or low ready position with I shoot a SIG 365 or 320. Mm-hmm. If I'm at the safe, I'm just about a second. It's that quick. If I got the safe in a cupboard, it's up to 1.9 to 2.2 seconds. It's really fast. We encourage everybody, if you've got guns for home defense, lock them all, then practice your combination. Next to your bed, if you've got a fast access safe, every night, go to bed, turn the light off, practice your combination, let it open, remove the firearm, put it back, close it, go to bed. You're building muscle memory. My background is playing guitar. I practice 8 to 10 hours a day. Practice is not playing. Playing is playing songs. Practice is metronome running. You're building muscle memory exercises to program your hands to play quickly. So I could play guitar whether I was nervous, whether it was dark, with my eyes closed, I could simply play. You need to do the same thing with firearms.
They used to say that Randy Rhoads would practice scales for hours and hours a day. I'd sit sometimes watching TV, just practicing scales for 2 hours. Watching TV that's kind of a break because you really want to be 100% focused. But I drove people nuts because I would take the hardest part of something I was working on, and for an hour, painfully slow. When you're learning, like if you're doing dry fire drills with a handgun, or if you're I'm learning red dot, so I'm doing a lot of dry fire drills so I can pick up the red dot when I present the gun. You do it ridiculously slow because your brain doesn't know time when it learns, but you want to do it perfectly, really slow. So now when I do it fast, it's boom, it's right there every time. Then I'm going to put in a plug for one of our previous guests, Mantis, with their X10 product. Will absolutely.
It's a great product. It's a great product.
So you're saying then, or you're inferring that the model that you follow is probably not the traditional model, because I think that most people would go out and they'd say, I want this huge Fort Knox or Liberty or some other company's safe that has, they use car paint on these things to make them just beautiful. Gold filigree and things like that. And then maybe because they spent so much on this safe, they're going to prominently display this in a den or office or maybe even a living room or something like that. Your idea is distributed storage. And that's maybe the key to the fast access. So what's the kind of the difference in your model versus those traditional models?
Well, we developed this working with the Marine Corps with they call them reaction force teams that were basically, if a base was attacked directly, these were the guys that would defend the base. And we moved their their weapons out of the main armories and created these small little armories close to the point of where conflict would be. We called it decentralized storage. The same thing happens with your home. The traditional safe model, and it starts up by saying, any safe is better than no safe. Okay, just make sure you got something to lock your guns. The traditional model is buy the biggest safe you can afford, goes in your basement, and all your guns go into it. And buy the biggest one you can afford because you're always going to end up getting more guns and you'll grow into it.
Oh, yeah.
Traditional gun safes, the ads typically will talk about, family heirloom. It's an investment. It's a showpiece. And the photograph is this beautiful safe next to a pool table, a river rock, fireplace, view of the mountains. Mm-hmm. We come from a security background. We're not a gun safe company. And I look at that as just being crazy. All of our safes are narrower. They're not deep. They're designed to go in closets. They're designed to go into discrete locations. Our safes are much smaller. Our thought is buy what you need to store your guns. If you get more guns, buy another one. You don't buy, a young couple getting married doesn't buy a Chevy Suburban because they think they might have 5 kids. You wait till you have the 5 kids. And we're the same mindset, but smaller modular storage also allows you to break up your gun collection. We call it, again, decentralized storage. When you look at my home, I have a firearm next to my bed and a fast access safe, nothing more. I've got front hall closet next to my front door. I've got one of my Agile cabinets. I've got 6 guns, one of which is a pump shotgun with rounds in the tube. I've got an AR-15 that's racked. In my kitchen pantry, I have another Agile 6-gun cabinet with got some lever guns, but I've got an AR-15 that's racked, that's ready to roll, all set up for fast access. And I just work through it that way, as opposed to saying all my guns are in my basement or in my den in this great big heavy safe. Our safes are also all lightweight.
Yeah, but extremely well made in the fact that it's, short of sitting there with a blowtorch and crowbar for quite a while, you're not going to get into it. This is not something that you're going to get into, because when I purchased your safe, as I say, about 5 years ago, I ended up getting the Model 47, which is narrow and tall, and I was actually looking for a drawer safe that went underneath the bed, bolted onto the bed frame. And I was looking around, but I wanted a full size pump shotgun, which I wanted laying on the floor. Yep. And I know you make the 36 or whatever, which is
the Model 47 drawer will be available in August. It's in production right now.
Good, because that's really what I wanted.
Yep.
Because what I ended up doing was getting your 47, and then basically mounted it onto the floor. But the door opens up, but then you got to reach in. It'd be better to have the drawer. So I'll look forward to that'd be great.
So you said, Tom, that these large safes, you grow into them. But I think that there's a reality here that when they market safes, I mean, maybe for logical reasons, you see a big cavernous thing that's carpeted on the inside and it's empty. So if they advertise a X number, of guns in this safe, how many does it really hold? As opposed to how many do you hold?
It's a sore subject for us. We're launching a campaign this summer called Truth in Storage, and we call out the industry a lot because the capacity has gotten to a ridiculous level. I had meetings when we first decided to go into retail, 2013, late 13 into 14. We had developed kits to upgrade safes. So my thought was, I don't know this space. Let's license our cradle grid technology to gun safe manufacturers. So most of the big manufacturers in the U.S. are near Salt Lake City. You got Payson, you got Salt Lake. They all grew out of one company back in the 60s. So I went out there and I met with most of the major safe manufacturers. And sitting in a boardroom, we're talking to these guys, and I've got a safe on the floor with my system installed, and their head of sales is like, Tom, your system holds 12 guns. I said, with all due respect, it's a 12-gun safe. He goes, that's a 40-gun safe. And I said, sir, there's no way you can physically fit 40 guns in that safe. And he started laughing. He goes, yeah, I know. That's our industry's little white lie. Stack-On says 36, Fort Knox says 38, so we say 40. And it just goes back and forth. And we're at a point now, we've just revamped our whole gun safe upgrade kit line. We've brought all the manufacturers in the U.S. We were able to actually bring the price down by going to injection molding on a bunch of pieces. So we've built all these safes, and I've got an 80-gun safe here. And we went through it. We got a video on. We fit 17 guns in it. It's an 80-gun safe.
You mean by industry standards?
All they're saying is they take these brackets with the little W's cut into the wood and they put leather or carpeting over it. If they can fit 80 little W's, they're saying it's an 80-gun safe. You couldn't lay that safe on its back and pack it full of 80 guns if it was empty. There's just no way, but the industry has just gotten so ridiculous. So we look at your average 30 to 40 gun safe is a 12-gun safe. And that's what most people have in them. And then traditional gun safe, your guns are stacked front to back, side to side. They're all leaning, they're twisting. There's no real organization. So getting to the gun in the back of the safe requires you to take everything out, lay it on the ground, kind of dig back there. Our solution, this is based on all of our military work, is one arm, one gun. We call it straight line access. You open the door of my safe, you select the firearm you want, you pull it out. It will not hit or touch the other guns. Optics stay zeroed. Clean and neat. All your gear is stored and organized in what we call organizational awareness. You open the safe and you can see immediately if something is missing.
What do you know about guns getting damaged just as a process of getting them in and out of safes?
There was an article I read, and this goes back quite a ways. There's a website, The Truth. I think it's called The Truth of Guns or The Truth About Guns website. It's an old website. It's still up, and they did an article on wear, tear, and damage. And their point at the end of the article was the number one cause of damage and wear is going in and out of gun safes. And they weren't critical of gun safes because at the time that was the only solution. They were simply saying, guys, be very careful because you got to position the gun to go underneath the shelf and stick it up so the barrel goes up in those little W's. If you've got a scope and you've got, if you've got an AR-15 with a quad rail and optics and things mounted, all those edges are sharp. Yep. If you got a couple of vintage lever guns, you just nick one, you're scraping the finish. It's so easy to do. So our solution solves that problem, but we need people to accept the idea that they say the safe holds 36 and I'm telling you it holds 12. And I get pushback. People say, well, I've got more guns than that. Then buy two safes. So I don't want to buy two safes. Then you're going to end up packing your guns. We're going to start a thing this campaign about the guns hate their gun safe. The guns hate their home. Your guns hate your safe.
I love that.
When you're teaching your kids, you teach them about respect for firearms. That's a term that's used by the NRA. It's used by a lot of instructors. When I look at storage, I look at gun safes. I'm saying, are you showing any respect? We say respect should not end when you close the door of your safe. And when the guns are all packed in, stacked on top of each other, I'm saying you're not showing much respect for those guns that you spent a lot of money on, you spent a lot of time training with. Our solution provides proper storage for each gun. Nothing touches, everything's free and clear. Optics you'll never lose zero. Gear is stored in a way where you're not going to damage your guns if you drop something. So it's just it's our military mindset, but we think it makes more sense.
I have to completely agree with it because I've got stuff that is like, oh, would you like to go? We're going to the range. We get short order. You're going to go to range. Like, yeah, but I want to take that, and it's way in the back, and it's going to take me 20 minutes to get everything out, and 20 minutes to put everything back, and it's like, and then you end up not shooting something that you kind of enjoy, but it just got pushed to the back for whatever reason.
I guess that's a form of disrespect as well to the firearm, just never using it because it happened to migrate to the back because you have an optic on it, and taking the optic off to make room for another gun is, a choice, right?
Yeah.
What kind of misconceptions are out there, in your opinion, Tom, about what the big, heavy doors and safes are in terms of actual security? Because I think that there's also a body of thought there that I have, I have more bolts than you do, or something like that.
Yeah, that goes back again. We don't approach things from looking at what others do. We don't approach things from how does the world do this or that. We go in and pull data. And when you look at actual data of safe breaches, they focus a lot on doors and bolts, which I can get to. When you look at actual breaches of safes, they cut the side open.
Yep.
And a modern circular saw with a carbide blade, they sell these blades to concrete industry for cutting rebar on job sites. It's up to 1-inch rebar. Cuts pretty quick. I can cut the side of a safe. Doesn't matter what brand. Doesn't matter the thickness of the metal, really. Even if it's 1/4 inch, I can cut it at about the rate I can cut 3/4 inch plywood. These blades are that efficient. And the biggest number of breaches of safes was in the cell phone industry. That's where I had most of my data because cell phones this goes back probably about 10, 11 years. Cell phone theft from stores was becoming an epidemic. And the only thing, if they couldn't afford a true concrete-filled safe, and they weren't big enough, they were all buying big gun safes and storing all their phones in at night. And these stores would get broken into. Thieves would cut a hole in the side of the safe and take all the cell phones. And that's where most of the data that I came across. A lot of gun owners don't report their guns being stolen for various reasons. And I understand, maybe you don't want people to know what you have, but a lot of it, if you don't have insurance, a lot of it goes unreported. That could also skew why so much of my data was in the cell phone industry. But we've demonstrated that my safes aren't more secure. We use the same gauge steel as Fort Knox, as Liberty. We're all using the same material. I don't have drywall. I don't have carpeting. Our safes meet, the military AR 190-11 and the OPNAV naval requirements for secure storage of firearms. There's no fire ratings. There's none of that is part of our of any of our safes. And then our safes are shallow, so they fit into discrete locations. The reason a gun safe is deep is not capacity. It's so the safe doesn't tip over when you open the door, because the doors are so heavy. The industry focuses in the marketing all the attention on the door. Plate this, drill plate here, bolts, corner bolts. There's so much stuff. Level 1, 2, 3 levels of security all focus on beefing up the door. These doors get so heavy, if you open them, the safe has to be really deep or the safe could tip over. But again, when you look at the crime data, the doors are ignored. The other piece of their industry then is they're using drywall and carpeting and calling it a fire rating. We don't offer a fire rating, and I can come right out and say fire ratings are nonsense. They really are. The only safes that will give you any level of protection in fire, and a true fire, is a double-walled safe filled with a concrete composite. Fort Knox, actually, no, I'm sorry. It's American Security BF series of safes is a double-walled safe with a concrete composite fill. It gives you a decent fire rating. We make the True Safe, which is a similar construction, double-walled steel filled with a concrete composite. These safes are very expensive and they're very, very heavy, but they do give you a modest level of fire protection. And the problem with fire ratings is they all use the same test, and the test is not testing real-world conditions. They put them in an oven and bake them. And they say, well, you baked it at 1,300 degrees. It went an hour. It's a 1-hour rating. And fire in your home is not baked. It's a convective force.
I was just going to say this convection. Yeah.
Yeah, the air in your home can move in excess of 60 miles an hour. And what I would like to, for people who don't, just to visualize this and better understand it, if you're home making a pizza, you got your oven at 450 degrees, you're going to put the pizza in there like a frozen pizza. You can open the oven, put your hand in that 450 degree oven, just hold it real still. You can keep it in there for about 2 minutes before it gets so hot you have to pull it out before it burns. Now, picture a small jet engine mounted to a bench. The exhaust is the same 450 degrees coming out at 60 miles an hour. Put your hand in that exhaust stream. You will lose your hand in less than a second. You'll third-degree burns almost instantaneous. You're going to lose all the skin and muscle off the bones because convective air transfers heat an order of magnitude faster than static air. And that's a big flaw in the industry. We don't do it. We just think this is crazy. And those materials, the drywall and the carpet they're using, is also why they sell golden rods and desiccants. That's the source of corrosion. Those materials are all banned from armories. They're all banned from museums because of their corrosive nature. And behind all of it, though, is you don't need a fire rating. When you look at, again, we crunch a lot of data. Fire data statistics comes from the insurance industry because they track everything because they're paying the bills. And the rate of open flame heat damage in homes is unbelievably low. Fires of all kinds in homes is dropping every year. Every decade is going lower, lower, lower. 94% of all fires in homes are contained in the kitchen, and the fire is contained within a pot on the stove or within the oven. The insurance claim was for smoke damage. Actual open flame burning in your home is extremely rare, and even when that occurs, the bulk of those fires are contained within one room. Usually it's human air, it's cigarettes, or like the little portable heaters misused. Those are the two big causes that I see.
Well, in the West, of course, we've got 2,000 homes will evaporate in a matter
right.
in a
when
wildfire.
You look at those fires, though, there's no gun safes that survive those. I mean, in a fire that hot, I'm not sure our true safe using the standard safe ratings runs around 3 hours in an oven. But in an actual raging fire, we list this, hey, it's 2 hour, 20-minute based on standard, testing. In a real raging fire, you probably got 20 to 30 minutes, which is typically enough. I mean, it's, again, the risk of fire in a home is so rare. And the last piece of that one is, even if you have a fire and you open your safe and you got some AR-15s, you got chassis guns, you open the safe and you look, hey, the guns are good. Okay, do you know how hot your safe got? You don't. We cooked off a safe, a 90-minute safe out of the Secureit ranch, built a simulator room, cooked the safe off. 90-minute safe went 12 minutes to 400 degrees. in our fire. We put the fire out and we were just grilling some hot dogs, waiting for it to cool down. 20 minutes later, the safe was 720 degrees inside because the hot metal continued to transfer. The significance of that is hardened steel changes properties at 380 degrees. That's your bolt and your trigger group. Annealed steel, that's your barrel. That changes properties at 680 degrees. So that's safe at 700 degrees. Depending on how the safe cools down, determines what the properties of your barrel are, your bolt, and your trigger group. So you've got a 300 Win Mag. You're going to put that next to your cheek and squeeze the trigger because if that barrel cooled down a little quickly, it's now brittle. It's no longer, barrels are soft enough to flex. If it cooled down quickly, well, you just hardened it. It's not been annealed. So guns in a fire, regardless of what you think, should never be fired.
Yeah, and the opposite would be if it cools down very, very slowly. Now you've tempered it too much and taken out all the hardness.
Now your bolt is now soft. Right. So it's from a safety standpoint, and fires are so rare. People are sold this idea that you want a good fire rating. Again, we decentralize our storage, so my guns are distributed throughout my home. In the event that I had a bad fire in one room, maybe I lose a couple of guns. But I don't believe my house is going to burn down. If you live in a city with a professional firefighting force, response time is usually 2 to 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. I live in a small town volunteer firefighting force. My response time is 11 minutes. Anybody can call their fire insurance provider. You give them their zip code, and they will tell you what the response time is because they track it for every address because they know, because that's how they rate policies. And it's pretty quick. So I store for fast access, for discretion, security, and really fast access. Those are my, if home defense is part of the reason you own a gun, store it in the manner that you can actually get to it very, very quickly.
And let's go along that, because I want to talk about the combinations. I've got a cabin up in the mountains, kind of 5,500 feet in elevation, and it's out there 17 miles to the nearest grocery store, and I got safes up there, it's similar to what I have at my standard house down here. But one of the things I did not want when I was buying my great big, refrigerator size 2,000-pound safe was I don't want any electronic locks.
Right.
I want the old standard left, right, left, right, left, hit the button, boom, 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 and it'll open type of thing. And it's got a key lock to even turn the dial. And the reason is, if I'm up there, I do not want to rely upon some 9-volt battery that doesn't work type of thing. And especially if I'm not driving down the bottom hill, or if it's an earthquake situation, without rule of law situation, whatever it is, I want to be able to open things with the old standard mechanical locks. So that's why I like simplex locks that are on some of my smaller boxes. Mechanical lock, lots of different combinations. And I tend to go for those for both car situations and cars, as well as, my cabin in the mountains type of deal. So what are your thoughts? And you said you had a new lock you were developing.
I don't disagree with anything you said, but I don't consider, but you're not looking for fast access there. You're looking for the fact that you're so remote, you can't rely on traditional battery technology. Right. And I get that. That makes a lot of sense. But also, again, being that that's remote, if a couple of guys get up there and they want to steal that safe, all you need is time to break it. You can break into any safe. All you need is time.
Yeah.
If the cabin burns down, it's not going to survive.
Right.
However, when we look at our locking solutions, the simplex locks are tough. They're very expensive. And the ones that we've looked at don't have enough combinations to meet the security requirements that we want to meet. Mm-hmm. Because you're limited with a mechanical lock to the number of ways you can't push the 4 twice. You know what I mean? Sure. You got these, we want 10,000 plus combinations on all of our locks. So our HSFA locking is electronic. It does use a battery. It also has a USB port. So if your battery dies, you've got a couple of options. There's a key override if the battery's dead. Plus, you've got a USB port you can plug a phone into or a charger into, and it will power it. We tell everybody every New Year's Day or every New Year's Eve, replace all the batteries in your smoke detectors and your gun safe locks. And just do it every year. I do every day on New Year's Day. I get up and I go through all the smoke detectors and I go through my safes and replace all my batteries. And It's something I've been doing for a long time. The keys for your safe, I tell everybody this, are Agile. They have the backup keys. You don't want to lose the keys. If you forget the combination, and people do sometimes, if things happen, I tell everybody we got we have got these very high secure laser cut keys. You get 2 of them. I say you can store one wherever you want. The other ones, you've got a bunch of cabinets, put them in a Ziploc bag and put them in your freezer in the back. You will always know where they are, and nobody's going to look there. It's just simple things you can do. But going to the fast access, our HSFA locking was developed last year. We host and we try to do a lot of training events. We're very big on training with firearms. We're not a firearms company, but we provide solutions. We want people to train with their safes. So we market and sell with a lot of firearms instructors. And we were doing a force-on-force training. It was a 2-day training course down at Summit Point, a training center with Gary Melton and Paramount Tactical. He's a partner. He's a friend. And you're in the catwalk above these rooms we're watching. And it became really obvious. We had men, women, we had people that were shooters and people that were not shooters put in these scenarios. When you trigger somebody to fight or flight, true, like somebody kicks in your front door and discharges a firearm into your home, you're not going to be in a normal state. Your body will go to fight or flight because you're in that scenario. All of your brain power goes down to the very base of your brain. You lose fine motor skills. You're going to get tunnel vision. You're going to lose cognitive ability. What we found was your traditional lock, people couldn't get their fingers to do the buttons because they were too small and too close together. And with that loss of dexterity, we watched people trying to do this simple combination, a 4-number combination. We had it down to just 4 numbers. And they were struggling to open the safe because they were panicked. So the HSFA locking solution is a large format button lock. We put it on all of our products now because it doesn't change anything, but having the really large buttons, as we say it gives you the fastest possible access when you're not at your best, because most civilians do not do stress inoculation training like the military. We don't have the ability to put ourselves into these, simulated dangerous situations so that we're cool as a cucumber under fire. And we're not. And, quite frankly, I'm not going to bother with that. So we developed a locking solution to give our customers the fastest possible access in a true crisis situation. That was out last year. It's just been incorporated across our entire product line.
So some people are thinking in the audience right now, well, wait a minute, isn't biometric faster? And I don't have to remember a combination. I think you have some comments on that too.
I do. We include biometric for convenience. And for us, it's about if your friends are over, you want to show them your new gun, you can open the safe with your finger without having to hide or telegraph or give up your combination. The problem with biometrics for home defense, and this is the same, like the military would never use this technology, and they use the term never fail technology. Biometrics is not never fail. If your hands are wet, it doesn't open. If your skin's really dry, it might not open. You're wearing gloves, it won't open. If your hands are dirty, it won't open. If you haven't reprogrammed the lock for 6 months, it may not open. So there's a whole lot of reasons. A biometric lock is designed to say no access until in certain conditions are just right. Problem is, it's hard to recreate those conditions. And if you're being shot at, you don't have time to try your finger 3 times. So we just say, in the time it takes you to put your finger on a biometric and it opens, I'm already there. You can't be faster than me. The other one that we're seeing now that we find very problematic is RFID. We're seeing those. I did a video with Hornady. I love Hornady, their ammunition. I shoot their lever evolution ammo almost exclusively when I hunt. I reload with their ammo. I do a lot of reloading. I think it's a great company. The people there, I don't know them, but I know people who are good, great people. But they're marketing these RFID locks. A lot of companies are, where you get the safe, you get the little fob that goes on your keys, you get the little card that goes in your wallet, maybe a thing you put on your finger, a wristband you're going to put on, and all you do is wave it in front of the safe and it opens. Okay, well, the time it takes you to get the fob and wave it, I've already got the push button open. I'm already open. I've already got my gun in high ready. But what's really bad or dangerous is you're introducing key controls to people who aren't experienced with them. Most civilians don't deal with key controls. We deal with this with the military all the time. We did a lot of work. I spent 3 years on RFID projects with the military back in 2013 to 16. Military moved away from it for all of the reasons we're talking about, but you get the safe, all these fobs. Well, what do you do with them all? So you put them on your keys, then you get 3 more. What do you do with them? You're going to put one in your wallet, you're going to put one in a drawer. So they're on your keys, and your keys are hanging on the little, like my house, the keys hang on a little board next to my back door. That's where all the keys go. I get kids, they just hang your keys. Well, somebody breaks into the house, they see your keys, they got a fob that says with the Hornady logo, and like, he's got a Hornady safe, and I can open it. Kids see parents with this type of technology. Oh, that's cool. Parents that are around, they want to play with it. You're exposing, you're introducing a safe into your house with 6 things that can open it by anybody, even a 2-year-old. And it's not getting you, we can demonstrate so easily that it's faster to manually do the combination than it is to use an RFID tag. So we're hoping that they will move away from it. We pressured them to say, guys, look, you make great ammo. Please stop making the RFID, because the average consumer, they're selling it as a cool tech, but you're introducing a security breach into your home, in our opinion. Again, our background is not gun safes. Our background is defense, is more real world.
And speaking of, creating a security breach, and without being attributional about how this happened, a lot of safes, the digital ones, are sold and have a back door, if you will, a master code or something like that. And I guess what I'd like to hear you repeat is what your philosophy was when you were offered the opportunity to have those codes, just in case a customer can't, can prove that they own the safe, but can't remember how to get in, and maybe what the problems would be, if, let's say, your systems got hacked, or a subpoena came your way, or something like that.
Yeah, we all know the story we're talking about, when a safe manufacturer gave up a code, and the world woke up to the idea that manufacturers have backdoor codes. I wouldn't call it a backdoor code. It's a master code. It's not meant to be backdoor. They're not being nefarious. They're not being sneaky. The real safe industry, your jewelry store safes, the big true vault safes, have the manufacturers have the manufacturer's code. In the event of an issue where the safe won't open, there's a whole protocol with licensed locksmiths. There's a whole security protocol they go through for the transfer of the code and the process to open the safe. Gun safe industry doesn't have that. The lock manufacturers go to the manufacturer and say, boom, boom, here's your locks. We're going to pack it this way. This is a standard code for the customer. It's just 6 ones. Here's your master access code for this lock, and each safe is different. And they keep them, they claim it's for warranty work, so if they had to get into a safe, they could. That was presented to us. We used to use Securem locks. All of our locks are proprietary. We're made by us. And they came to the same thing. And I wasn't thinking about safety or security or somehow. My thought was, why would I want to maintain a database with all my customers, with combinations to all their safes? I go, it's like, what a pain in the neck. I'm talking to my head of ops. We're like, Frank, does this make sense? He goes, I don't want to do that. Our position is, and this goes back to our military, where we came from, is if you buy my product, we trust that you can manage it. And we're not, if you lose the combination, you can't open your safe, we can work with a locksmith to breach the safe. You will be replacing the lock. We will be destroying. I mean, there's ways to do it, but you can't open the safe. But the real, the giving it up to the feds, to the FBI, people were mad about that. Even if Liberty had said no, they would have got a subpoena in a matter of hours, probably, or days. It was going to happen. I view the biggest risk, though, is in the world of computer hacking. We have news articles several times a year of a company, like your credit cards get hacked, they get 10,000, or a medical, or a place where all of a sudden somebody has access to 10,000 records, customer records. Well, somebody hacked a big safe manufacturer, and they had 10,000 safe owners. They had their address. They knew the size and model of the safe, because you fill your warranty card out. They ask you for all that. You mail it in. And they had the master code. So they've got the address. They just picture, where are the biggest safes? And they just do a road trip. And you could go crazy with this. And you can't change the master code. It's not, I mean, if somebody they just publish it, say, hey guys, here's all these addresses with master codes. You know what? If you got that safe, time to scrap it, because to my knowledge, there's no way to remove the master code. We had a lock when we worked with S&G. They'd give us the locks. And we said, we don't want a master code. I'm sorry, they come with it. So we simply gave the customer, here's your base code, 11111. This is the manufacturer's master code. We do not keep a copy. It's up to you to put that in a safety deposit box or store it. I tell people to create a contact on their phone and make the master code the phone number. And, just something that's random, nobody'd ever see, but you know what it is. But that was our philosophy, really it wasn't based on security as much as it based on, we're all about simplicity. I don't want to maintain that database. To me, that's just like, why do I want to be responsible for all that? I don't need to be. We trust our customers to do what's right. And that means maintaining your combination. Don't rely on us to fix it if you can't do that.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I've been in IT for 40 years. I just retired a couple of weeks ago. And my opinion is, if it's connected to the internet, it's already been compromised.
Yeah, there's something to be said. I was talking to somebody the other day about the good old days of DOS and computers.
Yeah. DOS.
So how do we handle in states? I mean, I don't know if this is unique to California, and many things are unique to California, but there might be laws in other places that say, just like we have a handgun roster in California, there is coming a storage device, and I'm going to call it device, roster in California, that if you're not on the approved list, you're not storing something safely, and putting quotes around the word safely, because some of these things are probably crap, but they've been submitted and approved, where an actual bona fide, this is an actually secure item to store your firearms in, wasn't approved, therefore it's de facto unsafe. Are you trying to even comply with that stuff? Or is this just a kind of like micro stamping, where a lot of companies just folded their arms and said, nope, we're not doing it?
We actually comply with it all. It's not the California DOJ compliance is not a difficult standard. We crush it. In fact, most safe companies crush the standard. What they're trying to do is get rid of the really cheap tin can little lock boxes. And there were some problems. There's locks that it's a spring loaded piston. When you do the combination, there's a little electric charge, electromagnetic little magnet that fires the pin. It works great, but if you drop the box, the momentum of that pin, they're safe. So if you just drop them, the door pops open. That's what drove the California DOJ security standard. Most of the other states that we see looking at this are simply adopting that standard. It does require every product we make, we have to send either 2 or 3 of them to a test center and have them tested, and then they certify it, and we go on the DOJ list. But everything we make, the only product that we don't have on DOJ is our True Safe, and it's a $7,000 safe. We're not giving them 2 of them.
No.
And California is the #1 state for the True Safe.
And because of the fires.
Yeah, but again, we tell people still, though, when you're in that kind, I lived in Camarillo and I lived in Chatsworth. I mean, when the Chatsworth fires, they got right up to our house years ago. When you're in that kind of a wildfire, you know what? There's a reason it's scorched earth. There's nothing left, and the safes are gone too. It's just when you get that level of heat, it's destroying everything, and you're not going to protect yourself. If you got a remote cabin, if you've got a scenario where you want absolute fire protection, you can do it. And we've built several of these, or assisted, and that is you buy a quad-con or a tri-con. It's basically a smaller version of a shipping container, or get a 20-foot shipping container, and you bury it, and you make a ramp, like the storm door of the old houses.
Yep.
And you make a door like that, where you open the doors up, you walk downstairs, open up the shipping container, and that is a buried bunker or buried armory. And we've done a lot of those in Texas and some of the areas where they have tornadoes. Because again, if you have a single family slab home, they typically build, in modern construction, they'll build a vault room in the very center of the home for tornadoes. We turn those into armories all the time. And then we've got companies that bury shipping containers and we do armories like that. So I mean, if you got, again, I've got a hunting ranch that's fairly remote. We're building a lodge on it right now. We're not going to have that many guns out there, but we may still, just for creating content, I may still pick up a 20 foot used 20-foot containers are, $1,000, 2,000,
Yeah.
even pretty cheap if they're decertified. Spray, prime them up really good, seal them up good, and then bury them.
Well, what's the typical timeline? And, when a burglar comes in, he's not going to try to unearth something in the backyard. I mean, I think it's a cool idea. I wish I could do it myself, but I can't. Typical burglary. How long do they want to spend? Where are they typically looking? And just, based on the same sort of statistics you were talking about earlier, I imagine it all derives from the same place. What does that profile look like? And why do your safes work better in this environment than the typical storage solutions?
We pull all this from FBI crime data, and it takes a while to drill into it. But again, we went into consumer storage not like, hey, we're a gun safe company. We were a defense contractor, so we just started doing research on what are we protecting against. I don't think the safe industry ever looked at it. So FBI crime data: thief breaks into your home. He's going to master bathroom, master bedroom, closet, home office, den, dining room, and then he's out. He's out in about 9 minutes. Most break-ins occur between 12:30 in the afternoon and 1:30 in the afternoon. What they want is prescription drugs. When they find them, they leave. They don't find those, they go to the master bedroom closet looking for jewelry. If they find it, they leave. Then they go to home office den looking for anything of value. Dining room would be silver, and then they're out of the house. It's rare that somebody spends a lot of time going through an entire home. Time is the enemy of a thief. Once they have something of value, they typically leave. And that's the bulk of break-ins. The number one thing people can do to prevent break-ins is lock your doors, lock your windows, and keep vegetation trimmed around your house so it's pretty visible. And at nighttime, motion sensor lights. If you can light up your house, not just one light, but light it up. Thieves are like bullies in school. They don't want to break into everybody. They're looking for the easy target. And if you present a house that just has any level of maybe not this place, they will go next door.
Yeah.
So when you talk about what do we do, are our safes better? The only thing, if you follow our principles with traditional safes, you're going to get the same benefit. It's just that they're kind of too big and too heavy to move around. Our solution is that when you decentralize your storage, and you've got safes, small safes located throughout your home, and our Agile safe is 100 pounds. You can move it with a hand truck very easily. It's no less secure than a 500 to 600, 700 pound safe. It's the same metal. It just doesn't have all the drywall. But following those principles, even in the outside chance a thief is spending some time in your house and they find one of your safes and they're able to cut it open, you might lose a few guns, but once they do that, they win, they leave. If you've got one great big monster safe, they cut that open, they're taking the contents. So it's again, decentralizing allows you to minimize, in the event of a loss, you're minimizing your risk because you're spreading things around. But home invasion, break-in, thieves where they're stealing guns isn't that common as people think. It's prescription drugs are the number one thing stolen in America. That's because that's the easy money.
And easily hidden. Like you're not walking out with a long gun or a bunch of long guns that make you very conspicuous very quickly.
And the most secure room in a home, just to let people know, I mean, if you've got really nice jewelry you want to protect, get your little jewelry box, put it in your kitchen pantry, put it in a cabinet in your kitchen. Thieves don't go into kitchens. They're not hungry, and there's nothing of value. There's nothing they can resell in a kitchen typically. That's why I do like my kitchen pantry. I've got some of my really high-end guns in an Agile cabinet there because nobody's going there. And from a gun storage standpoint, we spend a lot of time in the kitchen. That's a number, bedroom, kitchen's a number 2 room. Daytime, it's the number 1 room where we spend the most time. I like a fast access gun in my kitchen because that's where I normally am. And I've also got an exit point from the home. Most kitchens have a back or side door. You can arm yourself, get out of the house.
Are you aware of any cases where insurance companies give people homeowners breaks for having secure storage in their house?
I tried to look into it. I didn't get a long ways. I'm really not The NRA offers firearm insurance. A lot of people look at firearms insurance, and you've got to do a lot of documentation of your guns.
Oh,
I know a lot of gun owners just don't want to share that data, and
yeah.
I understand
Mhm.
why you don't want to. If I have, I don't I mean I've got a couple of vintage military guns that have some value, not crazy, but I'm not, I don't have, I don't buy guns that are of the level of value where you'd want insurance policy. Again, if you've got some truly rare vintage, 50, $100,000 guns, I'd add insurance to those. But basic, I mean, to me, firearms, I don't want to lose them, but all the guns on the wall behind me are under $1,000 each.
Yeah, if you ever get an opportunity to look at Charlton Heston's gun safe, I guess you'd call
Yeah.
it, gun vault. He literally built it under his house and built a house on top of it. It's probably, I don't know, 1,800 square feet inside it with a bank vault, with an
Yeah.
honest to God bank vault opening to it. And you walked into it, and it was lined with his entire gun collection, and it had leather, couches in there, sit there and talk, and phenomenal. Anyway, I don't know if it still exists, but it did when he was a.
Ken is now the host of the Expensive Firearms podcast.
Yeah,
we built the largest home armory in the world, and it was a gentleman who owned Gemini Networks he sold, I think, back in the 90s, and it's the fifth largest home ever built in America. And that was a massive project. And then we've done a lot of celebrities' homes. We don't talk about a lot of,
Yeah,
we did Shaq's. We've done a lot of sports stars and stuff. We don't share the information on many of these. We ship to a warehouse. We have no idea where it's going. But we do build a lot of pretty high end. We got a video, Chris Dorsey Media Group. We did a great job. In fact, I was there for the install. We shot a video of it, and beautiful, beautiful gun room. I've done the design work for Ted Nugent. He and I spoke, and we haven't done that project yet.
Well, we are Frugal Firearms would be, yeah. So, I mean, I love looking at what I aspire to if I ever win the lottery. But in the interim, we will keep it on the low end, which is what our focus is. And
well, yeah. So to that point, you mentioned shipping. You're talking about shipping some steel. This is expensive. Yeah. What kind of shipping costs is a person looking at as an additive to purchase?
Yeah, a lot of gun safe companies will say free freight, free freight. You're paying for it in the price.
Of course you are.
It costs $300 to $500 to ship a gun safe. That's just what it costs. Now, you can save sometimes at stores when they're moving truckloads of safes. Our Agile cabinet, I think the freight is around $100 on that. We do freight promos at times. Sometimes if we have it in a closer warehouse, the freight can be a lot less. What we prefer to do, we discount. We've got a promo coming up over 4th of July. We do every year. But we typically don't do free freight because people don't know what freight actually costs. When we just say free freight, they don't realize how much of a discount. I can say free freight, and it's costing me $100 a cabinet as a discount. If I say $100 off, I sell more safes on the sale. Because when people see free freight with me, they're thinking, oh, cool, I'm saving $35. I said, no, you're saving a lot more than that. On our our True Safe is only available. We do not allow customers to install it. The only way the price of that safe includes shipping and complete white glove installation. We work with local installers. They meet the truck. They deliver it with all the proper equipment. They set it in place, bolt it down, remove all the packing material, and leave you just, absolute white glove service. But again, it's a $6,600 safe.
Right.
And in that price, we've built in the delivery on it.
Of course you have. Yeah. This isn't a charity. You're not going to lose money on the transaction.
No,
that would be silly.
And we make that safe. The only reason we made the True Safe, it's not a moneymaker for it. It's not a high margin product. We don't sell a gazillion of them, but my point is most people don't need a fire safe. But if you do, get a real one, because you've got you're spending money for drywall safes that are not going to protect you in a fire. And that material is going to be the source of your corrosion. We don't recommend goldenrods or desiccants with our safes. Even in humid areas, if a gun is properly cleaned and oiled, it's not going to corrode. But if you've got a traditional gun safe in a humid area, that drywall's off gassing because of the ferrooxidants, the pyrite, the things in the drywall, it off gases sulfuric and sulfurous acids. Go into any store with gun safes for sale. They're new safes. If the door's been closed, open the door up slowly, put your nose in there. You'll smell sulfur. That's the acids.
Really?
They're really strong when they first make it, and it's slowly, it's like a half-life. Over the years, you get less and less. But even 10 years out, if the humidity goes up, ferrooxidant and bacteria eat pyrite and put out sulfurous acid. So it's always going on.
Do you know of any cases where there's been successful break-ins against your safes?
I do not have thank God. But I do want to stress that I'm not saying my safes are more secure. They're not. I'm not more secure than Liberty, than Fort Knox, but we're not less secure. We're the same.
Yeah, that's important.
At the end of the day, the guys who are going after gun safes know that they're there and they're planned and they're organized. It's very, very rare. Most break-ins are going after drugs and simple valuables. The reasons for gun safes are to stop the quick targets. You got a party over, you got people, your kids have people over, something's happening, there's people in your home, and you're preventing somebody from, oh, that's cool, and taking it. That's the bulk of, or somebody breaks into your home. If you got unsecured, like a firearm laying against a chair, laying in a corner, somebody breaks into your home, they simply pick the gun up and now they're armed. You know what I mean? You don't want those scenarios. But we look at it as, we take all the military regulations that we deal with and we try to apply them to homes, because the military has been securing firearms for 150 years. And they're really good. The modern armories are extremely secure, and the management of the security is extremely regimented. And they've been doing it so long with our solution in the armories. And when we came out, we completely changed the way they store guns and gear. Their armories function really well. So we just look at what they do and say, well, if you applied that to the home, it's pretty simple stuff, but it's a little bit better way to do it.
I think besides the fact that you have designs that really address the problem as opposed to the image of the problem, which are two different things.
Right.
You are pretty proud of not just your value proposition, which is, by the way, why you're on this show, but at the same time, your customer service. And did you want to just throw in a couple comments about that? Because I know you're very proud of your team.
I've got a great team of people, and there's a passion here for the company mission, for what we're trying to do. We've been hailed as one of the best customer service companies in the industry, and there's no magic to this other than I've got a great team of people, and then we take a policy of, when somebody calls us with a problem, solve the problem. And the checkbook doesn't factor into this. So if it means we're sending you a complete new safe, we're sending one. If it means, we're sorry, whatever it takes, I want the problem solved. Because for me, if somebody buys a safe, it's, $1,000 safe, $300 to get it there. And there's something happens, there's damage occurs or something. You can, it's fixable, but it's going to have a scrape on it. You know what? Don't worry about it. We're simply going to replace it. And we're going to lose our shirt on the sale. But to the customer, it's like, because they call and they're mad and they're like, I got so many notes that say, I was really upset, boom, boom, boom. But, whoever it was, I talked to Brandon and I said, his service was so good and you guys took care of everything. I was just blown away. I get these messages all the time, but we empower the customer service team. They're not up against, if it's over $50, you have to get approval. They don't have that. Once they go through training, they can solve the problem without a checkbook. So sometimes we lose a lot of money on customer service, but you know what? In our industry, we've never had that guy write us up online as like, what a bunch of jerks. It's always, hey, I had an issue, but holy cow, did they take care of me? And that's what we want. That's the goal for me, for my company. I look at I'm an older guy, so it was magazines when I was a kid, and like Land's End and Orvis and all those companies. Orvis is a great example. They built their whole company on the best customer service. LL Bean was another one. If you're a fly fisherman, they did a lot of stuff and a lot of clothing, but their whole thing was, if you buy from us, it doesn't matter why something's not right. We simply take care of it. And we've taken the same approach to online selling. And most online sellers are stick and move because the margins are so tight in most online businesses. You can't afford customer service. I mean, you have to have a product that doesn't get returned, but then you empower your people to just solve the problem.
Hey, Tom, I really appreciate it. I mean, we've had you here for a while. I don't want to keep you too long, but as kind of a closing thing, do you have any funny or entertaining stories that you'd like to share with us?
Funny or entertaining stories? Boy, that's my most entertaining is going into the colonel's office and just blasting him with my world's greatest gun storage guru piece. But it's funny. I don't have a lot of. We have a lot of goofy stuff. I refer to the company here as the band of misfits, and I've always done that with my employees because I want everybody working here to be themselves, and all of us are weird and quirky in our own ways. And we try to get people, I want people to work in this organization with the same craziness as maybe when they're alone singing in the shower or driving, singing, doing stuff that they know they only do when they're by themselves because they'd be too embarrassed to do it in front of anybody, to just be who they are. We're very successful with it, but it's not really a funny story, but Secureit is the band of misfits. And when we hire people, I have this conversation with all of them, and it always starts with, look, I don't pay you to work. I pay for results. That's what we're going to get. I said, other than that, I need your creativity. I need you to check your ego at the door. I need you to, when you come in here, when we sit in a room to meet about a problem, we're all equal. If you think I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong. If you think I'm being a jerk, say, dude, you're being a jerk. Shut up. The goal is to solve the problem. There's no egos. There's none of that corporate crap. It's like, let's just get the job done. Not really funny stuff, but it's kind of who we are.
Yeah, that's a good thing, though. I appreciate that.
Exactly. So other places that either your products are going to appear that people could come see them if they wanted to, other forums that you're involved in, if you want to, talk about your website.
Right now, we sell the bulk of what we do is direct to consumer through our website. And we work with, I'm not really interested in big box retailers and those types of businesses. We did work through several of them, Bass Pro in the past. And I didn't like the relationship at all. So we work through training centers. Gunsight Academy, America's largest training facility in Arizona, has all of our products. It's a full showroom. They're going to incorporate our Train With Your Safe in some of their handgun classes. We're going to have people actually doing their combinations to start a training drill, removing the gun from a safe. But that's a showroom where people can go take a training class and see all our products. We do the same thing with Paramount Tactical, which is at Summit Point Training Center, just north of DC. Those are our two biggest, and we're working on relationships with 4 other training centers. And that's how we like to work, because they'll have all of our stuff. I'd rather have people say, you know what, guys, here's where you can see it. Book a class, take a handgun class, bring your boys, take an introduction to lever gun, something. Get people shooting and see our products, as opposed to, I got no interest in being in Bass Pro. I just, we don't work with companies like that. They don't treat us well. And I think the customers also ultimately pay the price.
Yeah. And in terms of, treating people well, I mean, you're trying as much as you can to either keep manufacturing or bring manufacturing domestically.
It's brutal. And, people are shocked because we do manufacture. We're out of China for the most part. I got some manufacturing in Vietnam. And the products I make there, I can't make in the States. It's not that I don't want to. I'd love to. It's a pain in the ass. To shipping containers across the ocean is expensive. The logistics are difficult. Everything about it is hard to do. But we put out RFPs and RFQs to the United States, probably 75 a year. And everybody comes back. We can't handle the work. We don't have the tonnage prep. We don't do that level of precision. There's all these reasons they come back, but the underlying reason and it's manufacturing in America is not coming back, despite the tariffs. It's not. And it's simply because we don't have workers. We send all of our kids to college, get a degree, get them, oh, great. We got all these college graduates that are struggling to find work, meaningful work based on their degrees. We don't have any tradesmen. The average press brakeman, metal bender, is 56 years old. The average machinist is 58 in America. There's no kids in these fields. And the companies that we do work with here, I've got a very good friend runs a precision machine shop. And she sold her. This was a high end. They made high end military stuff. She sold the company last year because she goes, Tom, in 7 years, my workforce is done. I can't work anymore. And she goes, I've got one apprentice. I need 15. And she sold the company to a much larger firm because she said, I'll be out of business. And that's what's happening in America right now. If they're dead set, they want manufacturing in America, have your kids learn trades. I'm not a college graduate. I was a guitar player. Secureit does not consider college when hiring entry-level positions. We don't ask. I don't care. I want to know who you are. I want to know, are you willing to learn? Do you want to jump in and just go crazy? Let's just really jump in and focus on your personal growth and company growth. Boom, we want you. We do have a list of colleges that we will not hire people from. If colleges are blocking free speech, if they're some of the things we've seen going on, we have a list. I said, I don't care. If you got a degree from that school, I don't want the baggage that you bring.
Right.
And I'm hoping other companies will do that. We can drive these universities to get back to actually teaching people actual skills.
I agree. Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs fame, he's big into that. I mean, so yeah.
I'm a big fan of what he's trying to do.
Yeah, me too.
But it's, we've moved a lot back to America, but the actual steel manufacturing, I don't want to sound like a pain in the ass here or anything, but I can't get the quality in America that I can get overseas. And it's not the quality of the workers. It's that the companies here that are bending metal don't run the tonnage presses to do the precision bending I need for my product. Our agile lightweight cabinet, it's a ship's flat. And you have to assemble it to make this work. The bends are extremely high tolerance. The way you do that is where these guys would have a 12-ton press. I need a 68 or a 75-ton press. You need that much force to get the level of precision. And there's not enough companies here left that can do that work, and they're maxed out. So it is a challenge, but we are, for the most part, there's some things that are made in China that aren't made anywhere else in the world. And we all use that stuff because that's where it's all made.
Yeah, it's just an economic and a business reality.
It is, and the people of China. I've been to China. I was just in Asia 2 weeks ago. I spent 10 days over there. The people in China are great people. They're great workers. They're loyal. They're dedicated. They're focused. The government's a mess.
Yeah.
Workers in China, workers in Vietnam that we work with, they're paid well. This whole thing, I don't pay them anything. Where we manufacture our products, and what I've seen in the factories I've toured, everybody's motivated, they're excited, and they're all moving forward. And there's certainly Vietnam has a buzz right now. It's a growing economic powerhouse. I think you're going to see a lot coming out of Vietnam just because they're doing it right. And it's a well-run country, and the people there are just excited about their future.
All right, Tom, you've been very generous with your time today. Today, we're recording this as a Friday, hoping you're going to have a good weekend and hoping that as that 4th of July sale comes up, that at least by then we'll have this show out well before then.
Yeah.
And people will come back to your site and maybe save a couple dollars, but really rethink the way that they do storage. I mean, I'm a victim of that too. I mean, you might get an order from me here because maybe I haven't been doing it right either.
Well, we all, everybody has their ways of doing things, and it's hard to step back and say, is this the best way? We happen to fall into this one. There's tons of stuff I do with my vintage cars and things. I'm like, people are like, dude, why are you doing it like that? That's horrible. Why don't you do it? Like, oh, I never thought about it. So there's always room for us all to learn stuff, I guess.
Exactly. So, all right, Tom, thanks very much for being on the show.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So again, thanks to Tom Kubiniec from Secureit for coming on our show today. Really, that was an expose of stuff that just too many people don't think about. Like episode 17 was people not thinking about their bona fide need for medical stuff that is at hand and available in the time you need it. I mean, how many other people have thought about storing stuff in a way that's not only secure, but distributed in a way that the thieves won't find, but puts it at hand quickly?
Absolutely.
These are both shows that just, they've opened my eyes to stuff I hadn't really thought about enough.
No, exactly. And as I say, when I went looking for a particular safe for a very particular location in my house, and this is like 5 years ago, I went out and I said, Secureit had the best solution. There's no doubt about it. and purchased it. Been very happy, generally speaking, with what I have, and I'm actually very intrigued by some of his agile line that he has out now, and I'm actually going to give that some pretty good thought, particularly as I move forward in with my cabin and other places that I want to basically add distributed storage safe, as he was talking about. So it's good stuff.
Maybe it puts the brakes on the idea that you have to have something that looks like a actual bank vault, even if it isn't as secure as a bank vault, and you don't have to expose it to the rest of the world. And
Exactly.
hey, did like you can't control that message. Like your friend comes over and tells his friend about what a great safe you've got, and then that person tells somebody else, and then pretty soon it's in the wrong hands.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
anyway, so I promised everyone that we were going to have an optics manufacturer on this show, and that didn't happen. Didn't happen because we're still in the testing phase of those optics, but I promise the listeners it's coming up very soon, probably the next show. In fact, Ken, you're going to be doing some testing on that stuff here in the next week.
It absolutely will be. Yep.
Exactly. So what do people need to do? They need to subscribe. Please, guys, subscribe. Please give us a like. If you're exposed to podcasts, you know that everyone says that, but you may not understand how important it is. It takes you a couple seconds to click on something, and it makes a mountain of difference in the visibility of the show. And I'll keep saying it, you get better guests when we get more listeners. That's a true statement.
Absolutely true statement.
Absolutely. So long show, but absolutely worth all of our time, I think.
I believe so. I've learned a lot and had to rethink a lot of what I thought I knew or wanted. So great stuff. And I appreciate the listeners tuning in as well. So I hope you've all learned something and enjoy.
And speaking of enjoy, we have a lot of past shows that are kind of timeless. And by that, I mean, our topics cover things that really don't expire. So if you guys want to go back and listen to some previous content, covers equipment, covers training, covers all kinds of different things, please do so, because just because the show is, one of the earlier ones doesn't mean in any way that material isn't still relevant to you and doesn't still represent the exact same thing that we'd be saying today. I did want to point out, though, that during our recording of the SHOT Show 2025, we were pointing out our favorite products during that show. But that doesn't mean that those products were necessarily new at the show that year. They were simply the best representation of what we thought was value at the show, irrespective of when that product was released. They were still some of our favorites. So some items were new and some were not, 2025 release things. But just to clarify that, and as we go forward and go to more SHOT shows or other types of industry shows, we'll still be pointing out the things that we think are the best value for you listeners, whether or not it's a new release or not. So thanks for listening and good night.